So, to the Oakland A's, Dave Calvo, Mr. Fisher, Billy Bain, Billy Bean, David Force, thank you very much for putting me in a place that I never thought I would be. Thank you very much that up until today, I didn't think I belonged. Thank you. And so...
Now, back to the morning roast with Bonte and Shasky.
We're talking a lot of Niner football here. We haven't even got to the Seattle Seahawks. We'll do that tomorrow and Friday, of course. But we needed to pause and pay our respects to a legend because we all love Stu. Whether you don orange and black, green and gold, Dave Stewart got his due over the weekend in Oakland, having his number 34, who Raleigh Finger said, you know what, it's okay for Dave Stewart to wear number 34. Number 34 is now on the wall at the Oakland Coliseum with Stewart on the back of that. And a lot of guys came out, Tony La Russa, Ricky Anderson, Terry Steinbach. We saw Eck there, Dennis Eckersley. Dave Stewart, a three-time World Series champion, had that glare, had that stare. Two-time ALCS MVP and a World Series MVP, of course. Joins the morning roast here on 95.7 The Game. We've gotten to know Stu over the years. Does a lot of great work on the Oakland A's pre- and post-game show on NBC Sports California. Loves his boxing, loves his basketball, loves sports in general. Stu, congratulations. You got your due.
Absolutely.
In your hometown, man. It must have been special. We watched you. We knew you were going to choke up. We never thought that you'd choke up on the mound, but you had to choke up over the weekend, man, seeing your name and number on that wall at the Oakland Coliseum.
You know, I was actually more composed than I thought I would be on the actual celebration. There were moments, obviously, my mother, who is very, very special in my life. She actually would have been living had it not been for pandemic when we would have done the original ceremony. Mm-hmm. My stepfather just passed 2 months ago. He was 103 years old.
Wow.
And had been with my mother. They had been together since I was 19 years old. Mm-hmm. And then my biological father passed when I was 15. So, I thought about those things. Two of my children weren't there. My son Adrian, my daughter Elise. They had things that had taken place in their life that didn't allow them to be there. But when I look back on it, and the path and how things took place and how they played into my life, there were moments. But overall, I was able to really survive the moment from the start to the finish.
Stu, me and B were talking this morning about just your impact on us, and we would play strikeouts and stuff growing up, and my brother would be Will Clark, and I'd give him the Dave Stewart look. You know what I mean? That stare that you would give because you were just a postseason stud. But I want you to take me back to Oakland and take me back to St. Elizabeth's High School. What does this mean for someone who's breeded and seeded in Oakland to have your jersey and your number retired with the Oakland A's, your hometown team?
Speaking of St. Elizabeth, which is now Cristo Rey, Saturday night we did a roast.
Yeah.
And it's the first time ever that I've allowed somebody to talk so badly about me to my face and not beat their ass.
Hey, Stu, real quick, not to cut you off. We were in the suite together watching Game 5 of the finals, and you still had to stare. I was like, I don't even want to ask Stu what he thinks about this pick and roll.
Most intimidating look ever.
But the proceeds from the roast will go to Cristo Rey. But
awesome.
Very cool.
Even Cristo Rey now is talking about retiring one of my numbers. I was a 3-sport athlete there: football, baseball, and basketball. Is talking about doing a number retirement there. But I was at the Boys Club, which is now the Boys and Girls Club, the Aussie and Car Club on East 14th or International now in '86. Just being here in the community, Pop Warner football, Little League, Connie Mack. There are a lot of organizations and places that I've been that have helped me, one of 8 children, to even get to this place because I grew up in East Oakland, blocks from Havens Court Junior High School. There's just a lot of things that went into play for me to make it to this point, and I'm just happy that threw all of that into everything that was put into me from the city, that I didn't disappoint anyone.
Dave Stewart here on the Morning Roast. We know him as Smoke, great Oakland Athletic. Over the weekend, got his number retired. His name is on that wall at the Oakland Coliseum next to the Rickey Henderson Field signage there on the wall. And for 4 straight years, from 87 to 91, you won 20 or more games. You won 20 or more games. You were the World Series MVP, and really your career just took another level, took another step with those great teams. But what was it like seeing your great teammates there to support you? Because not one guy I've ever heard, whether it's Steinbach, whether it's Eck, whether it's Rickey, have ever said a bad thing about you. What was it like seeing your old manager there, your old teammates there at the Coliseum support you?
Well, Tony obviously was the biggest surprise because he's been going through health issues, and I wasn't really sure he was going to be able to make it. But he did make it, and that once again brought tears to my eyes. But Sandy Alderson, who helped architect this thing with the Haas family, you know, to have their support and for them to be there. Sandy also has not been in the best of health, and he flew all the way from New York here. Walt Jockety, who was a part of the front office staff. And then when we talk about my teammates, Carney, Eck, Steiny, Rickey, you know, it's just unbelievable that they would honor me in this way. Reggie Jackson, Vada Blue was there. I had a friend, football athlete, Cornelius Bennett.
Oh yeah, former Buffalo Bill,
great player.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, all the way from across the country, living in Florida to show up for me. And I mean, there just are no words to express those types of friendships, that type of camaraderie, the relationships, which are far more than just baseball or football friendships. Those guys are my family, and you know, I've sent each one individually a thank you and let them know how much it meant to me for them to be there. They're just, like I said, thank you isn't a big enough word for any of those people that were there, any of my family that were there to help me celebrate that day.
You know, Stu, I look at like a career as a whole, and just for us locally, it feels like that moment for you was the '89 World Series. Giants, you know, the team across the bay that you probably didn't like growing up against your Oakland A's. And obviously the earthquake is kind of the big thing, but you were the best player in that series. I mean, you were the man. You came out, you threw a complete game, you come back 10 days later, and I know that was the bigger thing. Now that a lot of time has gone since the earthquake, and I'm not trying to diminish the tragedy that was, did it feel like you didn't really get your just due for how great you were for that playoff run?
You know, the way I look at it is, you know, I can't be the judge of my performance or how well I play, or for that matter, how badly I played. It's easier to talk about the bad moments, but the good moments, you know, I'd much rather those things be judged by my peers, people like yourselves and, you know, my teammates, and, you know, and then ultimately to be honored with my number being retired now forever. Those are the things that helped me understand what my career was really about. The fans that were there, the admiration from the people in the seats. That is a demonstration of what I did here in Oakland. But I can't be the judge of that. Quite frankly, I only live in the moment. Anybody that knows me, they know that today is the day that matters. And I probably don't take enough time to look back on my career or look at the things that I did during the time that I was playing. And if I would have, it wouldn't have equaled the total sum of my career. If I'd have looked at every individual day, take a day to look back on what I did yesterday, I didn't feel that was the way to get to the end of the tunnel.
Well, Joe Shasky here has a bit called Box Score Bonte, because I like to, at night, we both do it. We go down the rabbit hole of pro baseball reference, a pro football reference, a pro basketball reference, and we just look at numbers. And we're just like, man, can you believe this guy did this? Like, we look at your numbers. You were 10-6 in the postseason in 11 series, right? 11 series. He had a 2.84 ERA. Now, these numbers,
the best of the
against
best.
the best of the best. And against the Giants that year, 1.69 ERA in the World Series. Yeah, Will Clark, Kevin Mitchell, Matt Williams in the middle of that lineup, and you just stifled them. Against the Red Sox, we know what you did to Roger Clemens.
Oh, yeah.
You basically punked them on the other side. You had a 1.13 ERA, so your numbers are ridiculous. And we could talk about that all day long, but I am interested to know some of the jokes that were said in that roast, because you mentioned that, man, somebody talk about me, man, I'm going to kick their ass. What was the one that got you Saturday night at that roast? Because I heard it was legendary.
This is the funny one. Outside of the venue, there were porta pots with my name, Stewart, and number 34 all over the porta pot, right? So one of the comedians says, yeah, this is Dave Stewart. Look, he's got his name all over there. He's all dressed up with his name and his number on these porta pots. All that goes to show you is that Dave Stewart is in relation to, I can't say it. But it starts with an S.
Hey, Dave, there's so many great players and just athletes that have come out of Oakland, the East Bay, the city as well, but primarily the East Bay. Who are the guys you modeled your game after? That's what I always wanted to ask you, because we modeled our game after you, watching you grow up, but who did you model your game after?
I was fortunate, man. In the actual Bay Area, I had a chance to spend time with Mike Norris. But, to watch Vita Blue and Blue Moon Odom, I had the opportunity to see Juan Marinchel on the Giants side, Bob Gibson, Fergie Jenkins.
Wow.
Those were the guys. Quite frankly, Bob Gibson and Fergie Jenkins are the guys that got me on this 20-win run, because I looked at after the first year and I said, what's the most consecutive 20-game seasons? And I started looking at those guys, and Fergie had six in a row, I think. Gibby had 7 in a row, or vice versa. But so I started thinking, well, I can do that. And then, like I said, being around Mike Norris in my off seasons, we used to work out over at Cal Berkeley. Rupert Jones, Al Woods. We all used to go over to Cal Berkeley and get our workouts in, and so those guys were already playing professionally. Rupert and Al Woods were in the big leagues. Al Woods with Minnesota. Rupert at that time was with Kansas City. And so I was learning from those guys' work ethic, and Michael Norris was continuously working on my mechanics.
Well, Stu, you got your due over the weekend. You're great on television. You're great on the mound. And I'm glad you got your due, man. 3-time World Series champion.
Legend.
We've gotten to know you over the years, man. You're a legend. Everybody, whenever Dave Stewart comes around, is like, yeah, that's a great pitcher. That's a great pitcher. 4 straight 21 seasons. 4 straight 21 seasons when the AL was stacked. And, of course, the National League, and you play some great teams in the World Series. Stu, congratulations, man. We heard more and more about the roast. Maybe off air, we all could get together here about some of the jokes there that happened at the roast.
I'll tell you about some of the jokes that I could really tell.
Well, and
most of the stuff, man, it was X-rated and dirty.
Next time you come on, we're going to go down the Ricky rabbit hole. You and him, I'm sure you played football against him. And I want to talk about how soft these pitchers are these days. When they yank them out and they're going to give them a parade for going 4 innings, Stu. Drives me nuts.
All right, man.
All right, Stu, take care, man. Thanks for spending some time with us today.